To be the man, you gotta beat the man. And I'm saying, woo, right here. I'm the man. Woo!
Mic check 2 1 2, bitch. All right, here we go, guys. What's up? This is DDP. We are all systems go. Mic rolling, not accidentally muted like the start of last week's show. First in the house, what up, Gle? Always first in the house. How's it going, guy? Let me see here. I see a couple of my icons actually aren't showing up. Let me see what's going on. Right as I'm saying, oh yeah, everything's flawless. There we go. A little bit of a bump. Let's see here, reset that. All right. So, yes, here we are. We are on the cusp of another Cowboys game. This, a chance at a do-over, essentially, for Dallas not handling its business last week, getting pretty much beat down 23-0 against the Indianapolis Colts with the chance to clinch the NFC East. Now they're going to get an opportunity again, this time at home, where they've been substantially better this year. Dallas is only 2-5 on the road this year, much better at home. The only home loss is to Tennessee, and what was an aberration itself. So now Dallas has a chance to take care of business against a 5-9 Tampa Bay team. And here are the good notes if you are the Cowboys. I've heard a lot of gloom and doom from people saying, like, hey, if Dallas doesn't win against Tampa Bay, I don't think they're winning against the Giants, and I think they're going to miss the playoffs. Oh, okay. Hold up. Before you go too over the edge as far as thinking this whole thing is done, keep in mind, Dallas, even if Dallas doesn't win again, that doesn't mean they don't make the playoffs. Like, one loss for either the Eagles, they're out. One loss for the Redskins, they're out. They both got by last week, but nothing short up. The Eagles got to play a very good Houston Texans team. That's going to be a challenge. And Washington is still on essentially its fourth quarterback this year. So all things to take into consideration when judging or weighing how good this team is going to be. I don't want to fret too much about the state of the Cowboys because I look at it and say, hey, we got a good matchup. We can take care of business. I think they needed the mental recalibration, if you will, in taking that loss that they took at Indianapolis. And now I think that they're going to be more focused. And there are some advantages in this game as well. Again, Tampa Bay, yes, they're 5-9, and yes, on any given Sunday or Monday or Thursday or Saturday, you can win. You can beat whoever. It just depends. But Tampa Bay is bottom 5 in total defense. Let me pull up some stats here for you guys. So when we're talking total offense, because obviously total offense is not kind to the Cowboys, they are 21st in total offense. But when we look at Tampa Bay from a defensive standpoint, Dallas is a top 5 defense, number 5 in total defense. Let me find Tampa Bay. I'm still scrolling. Forgive me. Tampa Bay, 28th in total defense. They are abysmal. And on the road, they're even worse this year. Tampa Bay on the road can't stop a nosebleed, let alone an opposing team. So with Cowboys, with their 31st ranked red zone offense, if they can't score in the red zone against this team, I don't know who they can win against. Like, for real, though, I don't know who they can win against in this case. I think Dallas is going to take this one, and I think it's going to be a bounce-back game for the Cowboys. Again, Tampa Bay is dreadful defensively. Now, offensively, they can sling it about as well as anybody, whether it's Fitzpatrick in there, whether it's Jameis Winston, who I expect to be the starter. They can absolutely put up yardage. But, again, Dallas is a top 5 defense, and if there's one thing Tampa Bay can't do, despite throwing the ball well, they can't cap off drives for touchdowns. What up, Poncho? Producer G is silver and blue. Not on this show, although I do collaborate with them sometimes. But anyway, Tampa Bay against, I want to say it was Washington earlier this year, was the only team in NFL history to ever put up over 500 yards of offense and score 3 or fewer points. They cannot cap off drives. So you might look at Dallas and say, hey, red zone, they're 31st rated offense in the league. So how are we going to talk about someone else not being able to score? Tampa Bay just doesn't put it together in general. So Dallas has an advantage there that they should be able to work with. Now, if you look at let me see, I want to take a look at Tampa Bay's passing offense here, see where they rank in that regard. I feel like passing the ball, they're better. Let me see. Yeah. In terms of passing yards per game, Tampa Bay is top in the league. That's legit. They can sling it. They throw for 318.9 yards per game offensively. Tops in the league. The next closest is Kansas City with Pat Mahomes going 312.9. Really, really good stuff there. Cowboys now, their passing defense will be a good counter. They are the 7th rated passing defense, allowing 224 per game. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic there. I think Tampa Bay is going to be able to move the ball vertically downfield, where I feel like Dallas has, if not an advantage, I'll tell you right now, Tampa Bay, their rushing defense is not super strong. Their rushing defense is still scrolling, 27th in the league, allowing 128 yards per game. Yeah, just over 128 yards per game. That falls right into Dallas's wheelhouse. Zeke Elliott now lately he's been getting about 40 touches a game. That's not sustainable for him, but Dallas is the 4th rated rushing offense, averaging 130 per game, 130.9. So that sets up well for them. And as Brett's pointing out here in the comments, Tampa Bay does turn the ball over considerably. Jameis Winston in particular, turnover machine. Is 4 turnovers a reach? I would say for this defense, it feels like a reach because the most turnovers this defense has forced in any game, I believe, is 3. And that was the Jacksonville game, which was kind of an aberration of the entire season. It wasn't indicative of what our defense does. Our defense is solid. Our defense is stout. But it's not a defense that generates a lot of turnovers. And as a result, we have to consider what we're looking at and what is a realistic expectation for that. Now, I would say I do see this being a multi-turnover game for the defense. I think that is obtainable because I look at Tampa Bay and they're going to give you the opportunities. It's just a matter of if you have the cornerbacks to haul it in and take care of business, which I think typically we probably don't. But in this case, I feel better about it. I think you're going to get an interception or 2. I could maybe see 3 if you include a fumble in there. But Dallas goes as its defense does. I mean, that's been the case this whole time. The couple games in which the defense wasn't stout, they were good the first half against Indianapolis, got torched in the second half. Again, because it's the same defensive scheme. Former coordinator Matt Eberflus knew exactly what we were going to throw at him. And that's on Scott Linehan for not countering a damn thing. And you could point to Marinelli as well. They knew exactly what we wanted to run, what stunts we wanted to run up front, and they knew how to run against us and how to do anything and everything they wanted. And that absolutely burned Dallas against them. But I don't have that fear at all in this case. John S., rest anyone in this game. You're probably going to see Zach Martin get a little more time. Zeke will get fewer touches total, I think. But again, he's been getting about 40. That's not sustainable. I think they're going to dial him back a little bit. And they're going to go from there. Probably see something more like 25 to 30 touches for Zeke total in this game between running the ball and passing targets. I think that's a better balance for him these last 2 weeks. You definitely want to give him some rest. But at the same time, you need to close this out. If you have to go to the final week of the season to New York, that's not a pleasant recipe you want to have to deal with. You want to take care of your business now, rest everyone next week. And the difference between 2016, when we rested guys in the final week of the season, and this year, assuming we make playoffs, which we should, the difference in 2016 was that we were the 1 seed, and so we had a playoff bye. So our guys got 2 weeks. Sounds like more rest, but it's also time to develop rust. And we did. We came out flat in that game against Green Bay. We fell behind like 21-0 or 21-3, something crazy like that. And the game wasn't over, but it was, I mean, it took every minute pretty much of the game just to fight back and tie it up. And it changed the outcome, you know. It changed the way that game went down. Now, you would have to play wild card weekend as the 4 seed, the most likely 4 seed. I don't really see much of a path for them to move to the 3 seed now, given the Bears' schedule and their being now a game ahead of us, or is it 2 games ahead of us now? Regardless, the 3 seed's pretty much out of reach. If I'm Dallas, I take care of business. I try to take care of business Sunday, and then I don't worry about the final week of the season. That's where you rest Martin. I would rest Zeke. Hell, if I'm being totally honest, I would consider resting Dak, or at least playing him only a series or 2. Mrs. Scouting Pro. Okay, I was wrong last week, but this week I predicted Byron gets his first interception and someone finally gets a pick 6. It would be his first interception this year. He had an interception previously in his career. I want to say last year, or maybe it was his... Yeah, he has like 1 interception, which was like a Hail Mary heave at the end of a game. But yes, Byron is not... He is a great lockdown corner this year as far as coverage. He's not great at interceptions. He never really has been, even with all of his freakish athletic ability. But a pick 6 would be awesome. And honestly, based on the 2 interceptions he had earlier this year, I'd say Van Der Esch is probably one of your best bets for that. That dude gets the ball and he looks like a freaking running back out there in the form of a linebacker. No, you don't rest anyone unless you're blowing them out. If you got a huge lead in the 4th, yeah, but otherwise don't rest anyone. I mean, the resting will mostly happen against the Giants, but there are some guys you're going to have to be strategic about. Zach Martin is on 1 leg right now. You need to give him rest. And I know we were greatly hurt by him being out in that game. We were also hurt when in the end of the first half, Suafilo goes down as well. That also changed because suddenly the offensive line, which was a strength of this team, became a major liability. And that's why in the second half, Dallas only got to the red zone once, despite first half drives of 14 plays, 15 plays, and 10 plays. It was just totally different. It was night and day because Dak needs an offensive line to really play to his strength and be solid. And so if you lose that, your running game suffers, your quarterback play suffers, and you're just not going to see a Dallas team that can really dig itself out of a hole unless the defense can make those kind of plays to set you up in short yardage situations. What up, Virginia's finest? What's good? I got my voice back a little bit now. It's taken a little bit of time, but I never got a chance to make up that Mavs fast break, but I'll do something special Sunday or something, try and do some kind of live stream, longer one or something. I'll figure out something to make up for it. I don't like resting Prescott because I think he needs every bit of in-game practice, mainly to work on his deep ball connection with Gallup. He does need it, and I think they probably will give it to him, but my point is, if your offensive line looks like it did in the second half against Indianapolis, and you already got a quarterback that's been sacked 3 times this year, do you really want to continue throwing him to the Wolves knowing what you have behind him? Just something to consider. Dallas rested in 2007, lost in the first round, lost in the divisional round. 2009, no rest, beat Philly in the playoffs. 2014, no rest, beat Detroit. Yeah, you're right. Dallas plays better when it doesn't have a bye week. It plays better when it's not the front runner, when it's the team that can kind of come up and make some noise. And yes, when they've been in those situations to make the playoffs in those seasons you counted, they got hot late. In 2009, they got hot very late. They got hot by going in, I think, as a 5 loss. They were like 7-5, I think, when they went into New Orleans. We were already like into December at that point, like the second game of December. They beat the Saints, and then they were able to ride that through the rest of the way, beat Philadelphia in the season finale, and then like 6 days later, I had to play them in the wild card and shut them out in the wild card. That was really cool. But they got their teeth kicked in the next round against the Vikings defense that just obliterated our offensive line and had Romo running for his life. But it is absolutely a good point that those seasons they got rolling offensively. They got rolling late in the year, and when you have to then sit out a week, or in the case of 2016, you're effectively sitting out 2 weeks, it changes the dynamic. It makes you a little slower, a little bit more rusty, and it takes time to shake it off and to kind of wake up. In 2016's case, it was kind of like Dallas blinked, wiped the blood from its nose and mouth, and suddenly looked up at the scoreboard like, we're down 21-3. They've had 3 possessions. What the hell is happening? It just completely changed everything in that regard. And they fought back. They were resilient, but they couldn't get the job done. Against that quarterback, it was going to be hard to get that job done. But I digress. Thankfully, there's no Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs this year. For the second straight year, Green Bay will not make the playoffs. Dallas now with a chance against Jameis Winston, or I think it's going to be Jameis that plays for them. Dallas has a chance to punch its ticket. And, even the Giants case, I still hesitate to say, even if Dallas somehow stumbled again this week, which I don't think they will, but even if they did, I still hesitate to say that, that means they're going to lose to the Giants. The Giants have got 5 wins. Yeah, they've been playing better lately, but all they're doing is screwing up their draft pick. Unless they just want to be the fly in our ointment, what are they gaining by beating us? They're just screwing up their draft pick, and they've already now talked themselves into at least another year of Eli Manning, which, given how they've already been winning and screwing up their draft position and how thin this next quarterback class is, I kind of understand. It's not really the year to go get a quarterback anyway. Yeah, we'll deal with one more year of Eli. But good God, man. If you want to talk yourself into more Eli Manning, by all means, do it. Do it. The rest of the NFC East is just yeah, no, that's great. Good job. Yeah, let's do that. It's just ridiculous. And then they're going to be sitting there 4 games into next year when they're still trash saying,
I've made a huge mistake.
Indeed. Let's see here. Heath kills the Bucs. He did last time, yep. Byron is great in coverage, but no ball skills. Didn't in college either. Yep, agreed. I think he snags one, an unrecovered strip fumble. I think Zeke and Rod need to split the carries 75-25. That's a good bet there, but you're still going to have to be mindful of Zeke's overall touches. Chilling with my brother. Glad you feel better. Appreciate that, Virginia's finest. Yes, it definitely took some time to get back on my feet. I still don't think I'm 100%, but I'm certainly good enough that I can be here and I'm not losing my voice, which is good. Some notes. Someone mentioned the Pro Bowl, I think, earlier. Cowboys sent 5 Pro Bowlers. They are Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, you have Zeke, and you have Byron Jones as well, and DeMarcus Lawrence. So that's your 5. The 2 obvious absences there are Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch. Now, keep in mind, there is still a lot of time for alternates because whatever 2 teams go to the Super Bowl, their players aren't going to be playing a week before the Super Bowl. There's no chance. They're going to alternate. So you'll have more spots open up. You're going to have guys who are injured and can't make it, guys who just say, I don't feel like playing, and with decline or whatever. You're going to have that happen. And so there's still a chance, I think, that Vander Esch could get in. Jalen is pretty deserving as well, but I don't know for sure that he will. But all the same, it is going to be a possibility to get them in there. And, there's Pro Bowl snubs every year. As Miss Scouting Pro says, it's basically the Kids' Choice Awards, all kinds of garbage. Aaron Rodgers made it this year. Aaron Rodgers had one of the worst years of his career, and that's not to say his worst year is better than 90% of other quarterbacks' best year. No, he had a garbage year. His completion percentage was trash. His performance was trash. He shouldn't have made it this year. He made it on reputation. Tom Brady, quite arguably the same. Another not a great year for Brady. He gets in more on reputation. Some Cowboy fans arguing that Tyron Smith shouldn't be there. Tyron Smith, if you look at his numbers and his ranks, he's among the best, but I would certainly say he's not one of the best here by any means. Miss Scouting Pro, Sean Lee made it as an alternate. Are you talking about in the past, or are you saying he made it as an alternate this year? There's no way he made it as an alternate this year. He's literally missed 8 games. There's no chance. even reputation can't carry you through missing half the season, I feel. But regardless, it's one of those things where you got to keep that in mind. That's how Witten, we love Witten, but that helped him really pad his Pro Bowl numbers every year because he would always get in as the alternate at the end. And even last year, I think, I feel like he was a Pro Bowler last year. If not last year, then definitely the year before that. So it happens. It pads your numbers. And it's nothing to get worked up about. It's really not. Like, the players want it because Pro Bowl distinctions help them get bigger contracts. And that's why even as bad as the system is, the owners aren't going to tweak it, because if they tweak it and they open it up to more linebackers or to more running backs, because you had like Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, those were two of the biggest snubs in the Pro Bowl voting. And those are guys who absolutely deserve it. If you look at their resumes this year, they are game-changing running backs that deserve it. But it's still one of those things where ownership's not going to change that, because if you change that, if you open it up to more guys, more alternates, whatever, now you got more guys who have Pro Bowls on their resume, which means you got to pay them more. And they don't want to have to pay an extra, half dozen players every couple years because they're making Pro Bowls as 5th and 6th alternates. So that's the reality. It's going to stay as it is. And that's why I don't really get that worked up about it. I wanted Van Der Esch to make it. I'm frustrated he didn't, but I'm not going to get bent out of shape over it, because it's, as Mrs. Scouting Pro said, it's basically a Kids' Choice Awards. Everyone just kind of votes and we just roll with it. It doesn't matter what the numbers really say. It just matters what the perception is. And Van Der Esch on the national stage only really caught fire probably Philadelphia or Atlanta. So he's really only had about 5 or 6 games of really turning heads. So it just changes the perception. Romo always made it when the team made the playoffs. He only had one true Pro Bowl season, though. Yes, agreed. And that's something to consider as well. And Dak made it in 2016, so another thing to consider. Pro Bowl, Dak has as many true Pro Bowl appearances as Romo. I only watch those skills challenges they do for the Pro Bowl. Yeah, those can be kind of fun. Just like the NBA All-Star Weekend, you'll get some of those as well. Like the 3-point contest to me is interesting. The dunk contest used to be interesting. Now I don't even care about the All-Star game. I don't really care about any sports All-Star game, whether it's Pro Bowl, NBA, NHL, or baseball. I just don't care. Baseball tried to make it have stakes. They made it have stakes for all those years where the conference that won the All-Star game got to have home field advantage in the World Series, which that's like trying too hard to fix the problem. Thankfully, the NFL has never done anything quite that stupid. And they also took some of the mystique away by now playing it in Orlando instead of Hawaii. Like, come on, man. Guys want a vacation to Hawaii. They don't want to go to frickin' Orlando for a week. I'm looking to see who the All-Pro is. That's what matters, just my opinion. Yeah, All-Pro, I would say, has much more value for sure than Pro Bowl. Pro Bowl feels like a popularity contest. All-Pro is actual analysis and more opinions that matter in the scope of weighing one season versus another. So, let me see here. What do you guys think for this game, the Buccaneers at Cowboys? We have any score predictions or anything like that? Chime in the comments if you got some here. I'm going to try to put some stuff together with Big Game James, Silver and Blue Nation, and Law Nation as well. I saw that they did a great show the other night. I feel like it was last night maybe, hyping up the Cowboys experience. That's an awesome thing as well. That's something I've attended with them several times. Very, very cool experience if you haven't checked that out. Obviously, at this point, you got one more opportunity this season, so this season's pretty much out the window. But if you guys want info for next season when that rolls around, hit me up. I got all kinds of info, and I can, with my referral, probably get you a little bit of a discount if you do want to do that. Gets you on the field, though. Gets you all access to the meet and greet with the players, and provided food and drink like beer and buffet and all that before the game on game day. So really cool experience, get you right on the field. All Pro takes emotion out of the equation. I agree. So, here you go. 24-10 Bucs. I predicted. Oh wow, you're taking Bucs in a landslide. Wow. Okay. John Davis, I'm scared of the Bucs. Well, like I said, they're the #1 passing offense, but we are a top 7 passing defense. They are what I think they are the only team in NFL history to ever have a game in which they had over 500 yards of offense and yet 3 or fewer points. So team can move the ball, but they're terrible. One, they give it away like candy, and two, they can't cap off drives to save their lives. I don't know what their red zone scoring efficiency is. Obviously, it's got to be, just mathematically, it's got to be pretty much better than us. We're the 31st rated red zone scoring offense, and that's one of the biggest indictments, I think, on Scott Linehan, and a little bit on Dak too, but I put a lot of that on Linehan, and I feel like that's just something that's got to be adjusted in the offseason. There's no going back to the drawing board and fixing it with what we got. You got to get a new guy in here for that. I think it's going to be close midway through the third quarter with Dallas putting up only 9 or 13 points, then a dogfight till the end. I think Dallas will start hot with its drives. I think it'll jump out to an early lead. This team is very good if it can jump out to an early lead, even if it's just a 7 or 10 point lead. It's very good. The problem is when it's like Indianapolis, where the field goal gets blocked, and then the Colts go down the field and immediately score. And then when Dallas doesn't immediately score on its second drive, getting stuffed inside the 5-yard line with I think, in fact, Zeke fumbled on that play. When that happens, it completely shifts the dynamic. Dallas at that point is not a team built to really come from behind, because even in the case of their defense, as good as the defense is, it's not a defense that creates a bunch of turnovers. And as a result of that, it's not really well equipped with this offense, this red zone scoring offense, and a defense that doesn't get enough takeaways to climb back into games. All the defense can do is stop the bleeding and stifle the other team offensively long enough, try and hold them off so that the offense can finally get something going. And thankfully, with the inclusion of Amari Cooper, you now have a guy who can do that. He can suddenly take over and make 2 or 3 plays here and there. But here's why I'm optimistic for Dallas. As I mentioned earlier, Tampa Bay, their passing defense is, let me find it again, not their offense, their passing defense, 27th in the league, allowing 258.5 passing yards per game. They are not a strong team in that regard by any means. They're a bottom 5 defense. That to me says, 1, Dak's going to have a little bit more success throwing the ball. 2, Cooper is going to have a field day. If you look at what Cooper has done against banged up secondaries that aren't that talented, look at Washington, look at Philadelphia for those examples. Those are the games in which he can beat up on the people he's supposed to beat up on, and he can still be pretty good and pretty solid for you, even in tougher matchups like he drew with the Saints in that case, where he had a pretty tough corner to go against. So it's just one of those things where you've got the weapons now. I think Dallas puts up, I'm going to say Dallas puts up 23 points, and Dallas wins 23-16. I think it is close, but I think Dallas is holding a lead for pretty much the whole game. I think they're just keeping themselves just enough out of reach. Let me see. Second half. Yep. Slow pace game, 10-10 at half. Then we pick it up in the second, go 24-17. Put the game away with the defensive touchdown, 31-17 final. A bit bold, but I believe we are going to reassert ourselves. I dig it. Bottom line, it's sad that most of us are pessimistic about this game. With the way things should be in Dallas, this should be an easy game for us, especially after a loss. I agree, and here's the thing. We were pretty inconsistent and frankly garbage through our first 8 games, and it showed. Then we made the Cooper trade, and we got red hot. Actually, we stumbled one game against Tennessee, and that was embarrassing. Then we went 5 straight, got red hot. Then we got our asses whipped last week. That was a humbling experience. The question is, now that they've had someone punch them in the face and they couldn't get back up off the mat for that game, how is this team going to respond? Are they going to now say, all right, F it, I'm back on my feet, I'm ready to go, another chance to close this out? Or is this team, and here's the thing, I don't think this is the case, but the alternative is this team now going to kind of fall back on its butt and let the season slip away with another crucial loss here? I think with DeMarcus Lawrence, I think with Ezekiel Elliott, I think frankly with Dak Prescott and Amari Cooper, I don't think that happens. I think this defense is going to beast out in this game. I think Tampa Bay, even with their passing offense, I think they're going to struggle to convert to points. And I think Dallas's offense will strike a couple times early, go largely dormant like they do, and then maybe pad it a little bit in the third or fourth quarter to kind of put it away. But that's how I view this game. I think Dallas responds. Tampa Bay is dangerous. They can get to you, but at the same time, 5-loss team. They've played hot potato with their quarterback all year. They've given up on Jameis Winston. You could say maybe that motivates him to ball out even more, but they've given up on Jameis Winston. I don't think it matters what he does the rest of the season. They're going to draft another quarterback and try and move on. That's just where they're at. And that defense is a defense that can absolutely be had. They fired their defensive coordinator earlier this year, I believe. So they are a team in complete disarray. And as long as you can keep the offense in front of you, which I think you largely can, as I mentioned before, their passing offense is number one. Let me look at their rushing offense. 28th in running the ball. The passing aspect's the only thing you got to guard. If you can take care of them, if you can hold them in check as far as their passing game, you completely take the venom out of the fangs of this team. And this is one of those teams that if you're not careful, I think they can jump up and bite you, and got enough venom in those fangs to take down a lot of teams. But the thing is, because of what happened last weekend, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Dallas is recommitted and refocused, and I don't think they're going to overlook Tampa Bay now, because now I think they got caught kind of overlooking Indianapolis, frankly. I said that was my concern, that they were breathing a sigh of relief and they weren't coming in with the fire and intensity in their belly that they needed, and that's what played out. I don't think they're going to let that happen again, and I certainly don't think that Tampa Bay is a dangerous enough team to make them pay in their current state at this stage in the season. And so I got Dallas. Holding on to this one and clinching the division. Wasn't surprised about the Colts game. Eberflus was with the Cowboys 8 seasons. Reich played Dallas twice a year for many years. They had a blueprint and won. Yeah, absolutely. And again, the opposite of that should have been true. We should have known exactly. Schematically, they run the same defense we do, basically. We knew exactly what they wanted to do to us defensively. It's the same defense effectively our offense goes against every day in practice. So why was our offense trash? In part because of the offensive line and the shambles it's in. And in part because they just weren't as focused. They weren't executing, and it reared its head worse than ever again in the red zone. If Olawale doesn't drop a very catchable pass, you get on the board there and tie it up at 7 early on, and who knows the complexion of the game from then out. Dak could have thrown that better, but it was a catchable pass that if you're Olawale there, you got to make the catch and haul it in. I feel like Dak is graded in a sense where if it's not a picture-perfect pass that you absolutely cannot argue, they're going to argue. It's never to anti-Dak people. It's never on the receiver or anything like that. And again, I'm not a Dak apologist. I'm not anti or pro Dak. I just consider myself a realist. I'm somewhere in the middle. I'll criticize the hell out of him when he had a terrible game and when he played like crap. See the first 3.5 quarters of the Philadelphia game. And I'll give him credit when he balls out, like he did the last 6 minutes and overtime of that Philadelphia game, or some other games earlier this season as well. Darren Price, what's up? 2 deep safeties make Dak hold the ball longer. Yeah, absolutely. And that's something he's going to have to adjust for. That's the new way teams are kind of playing him. And yes, it is making him think about things. He's holding the ball longer. He's been sacked 50-plus times this year, only the 3rd season ever the Cowboys have allowed 50 sacks or more, and Dak is, I don't know if he's on pace to set the all-time sacked record for the Cowboys, but I would say at least 25% of his sacks are purely on him. But even if you take out that 25%, he's getting sacked a lot. Like, there are troubles with this offensive line, and it's something that you got to look at. I know people like to say, oh, on average, he gets 3.1 seconds in the pocket, and the league average is 2.7 seconds, so his line's great. That's on average. That's on average. That's not every play. You know what I mean? Like, I might get 4 seconds in the pocket this play and then get like 1.1 second the next play. Well, hey, the average is still pretty solid there according to the league average. So you can't take average for everything. It's just something, it's a piece of data that not in proper context can be a little bit misleading. And again, I'm not pro or anti-Dak. I'm a realist in the middle. If he does great, I'll compliment him and point out that he played great. And if he plays like butt for the whole game, then I'll say, hey, he played like butt. Just, it is what it is. I like to consider myself realist, and I let the data and the eyeball test do a lot of the explaining for me. Let's see here. Girlfriend left me last year this time because she said I was too negative. Tried to explain the Cowboys and Mavericks always sucking and letting us down. She told me to be positive. Man, John, you're depressing me, man. What's up? Your girlfriend left you this time last year? Oh man, sorry to hear that. That sucks, man. That is some serious hard times. If you're ever if you're ever in town, I'll buy you a beer or something as a consolation. But yeah, that's tough, man. Let's see here. I want 2 things to happen: Gallup get a big play, and Byron finally get his first pick this year. I would love to see Gallup involved again. He was out in that Indianapolis game. He was dealing with either food poisoning or the flu or something all last week. The initial talk was that he was going to be ready to go game day, and then I guess he wasn't. So we'll see. Hopefully he's bounced back now and he can be a little bit better. Our coaches are too stupid to understand we were going against former coach. Absolutely, agree. The line has been an issue the last couple of years. Yes, it has. And we've invested like $100 million in this offensive line. And frankly speaking, we know you are fair on Dak, but some other YouTube Dallas guys are delusional, man. I get you. Yeah, so frankly, we spent $100 million on this offensive line, but if we're being totally honest here, the window is kind of closed for the dominant offensive line. Now, you still got the parts, you still got the players, you still got 2 of the guys at the absolute peak of their talent, and well, maybe not absolute peak, but certainly in their prime, in Zach Martin and Travis Frederick when he returns, assuming he returns to form, which he should. You got those guys still there, and so there's obviously a chance. 2014 was the best year, not the best year of the line play overall. Believe it or not, I would actually say that was 2015. It's just that the rest of the team was in such shambles it didn't matter. If you look at how the offensive line played that season, that was the season. It's just everything else fell apart. 14, they were damn good. 15, they were great. 16, they were very, very good again. I would argue they were better than they were in 2014 because they still had Ronald Leary at that point because he had to fill in and take over when Lyle Collins tore like a ligament in his toe or something like that, I think. And so they had to plug Leary back in. That was Leary's last year here. He got his big deal then to go to Denver, and because he has a degenerative knee issue, he had it when he went undrafted and we signed him. We knew about it the whole time. That was why they ultimately didn't make a big money long-term commitment to him. And I would argue Lyle Collins, the biggest mistake they made with him was moving him outside. His size, he is built to be a mauler inside and to pull, and they just don't let him do that. He has to use technique, and he's not nimble-footed enough at right tackle. That's why he gets caught holding so often. He is probably next to Connor Williams, who really struggled in, understandably, his rookie year, being a little bit undersized. Other than him, I would say Collins has been our second worst offensive lineman this year. I know Suafilo is kind of like a questionable one because he was great his first game. Then he hurt his ankle, like high ankle sprain, and he's been playing through it. And it's been a regressing return, like reducing rate of return since then. But it's just one of those things you got to think about. Like, you got to look like you can still win with the identity built around the offensive line. But now, unless they move Collins back inside and Williams outside, Connor Williams outside to right tackle, where I think ultimately he would be better suited. If they did that and then they just figured out, if they did that, I think they would be pretty golden, actually. I mean, long term, you're going to have to find a new insurance policy and a new ultimate replacement for Tyron Smith. He's still only like 27 years old, but good God, man. Between his elbow and his neck and his back, I just don't have much faith in the dude staying healthy. There are a lot of miles on that giant man's body. So it's going to catch up. And people look at his age in some cases and say, like, oh, yeah, he'll go another 5-6 years at least. I don't think so. I think he's got maybe 3 years left before it's just complete drop off a cliff. If you look at his numbers this year, he was largely good. Lately, he's been struggling, and it's becoming more apparent, and that's why you have some Cowboy fans saying he shouldn't have made the Pro Bowl. An argument can be made, but if you look at like pressures allowed and sacks and things like that for him this year, he's been largely good. Certainly in the discussion, worthy of being in the discussion, and then yes, I think reputation carried him the rest of the way. Quiet as it's kept, the line wasn't the same after Free and Leary left. Yeah, Free retired and Leary, to Denver. They carried the coaching from Callahan. Yeah, Callahan was an underrated loss for the offensive line coach here in Dallas. Now, I like Colombo. I think he'll be good, but it is something that I think Callahan leaving hurt us a little bit, for sure. Dak and Zeke rookie year. Are we talking about 2016 when the offensive line was great? Yeah, I talked about that. Yeah, man, 2015 third game versus Atlanta was amazing. Darren McFadden and Randall in one half had 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. Yeah, Randall came out of the gates on fire in that game, and by the fourth quarter, you forgot how great he was in the first quarter because he went totally quiet. But yes, I agree. 2015 was the best single year, I think, as far as the offensive line's play, and it just happened to fall at a time when the rest of the team was in such shambles, nothing else could be salvaged. Cam Fleming at right tackle and Collins at guard. I wouldn't hate it. I think Fleming's going to be a free agent, though, and I don't know that they keep him around. I think he signed a 1-year deal. Williams at tackle, I can see that too. Yep. I like that. We need Travis. He's the brains. We do, and he's still been around, and he's still been kind of coaching guys up. But yes, as amazing as Joe Looney has been this year, it's a decline. It has to be. It's a decline because Travis Frederick is one of the 2 or 3 best centers in the league, and he's a perennial All-Pro, has made the Pro Bowl every year he's been in the league. Obviously, I don't count this year because he didn't even get to play a single game. So it is what it is, but I look at Travis Frederick as the pretty much the pinnacle of what you can hope to get out of your center play. And I hope they keep Joe Looney because they can play him at guard or at center. And that's some great depth, man. Now, he probably has paid, I think they got him under contract for 1 more year. But I guarantee you he has earned considerable money this year with how well he has played. Frankly, Joe Looney he's been fantastic. The thing is, the guy he's having to replace is phenomenal. So fantastic's great, but when you got this guy who's phenomenal, it's a drop-off. Sorry, it just is. Is it worth doing fancy-type runs when the offensive line rotate and run around field? Holding penalties happen. I agree. And holding penalties have been just complete backbreakers as of late. They really, really need to figure out what they're doing in that regard as far as that, because I think they're overcomplicating it. Like when they got down inside the 5 at Indianapolis in that first quarter drive, they tried to cut Zeke back away from the strong side, like kind of like a reverse counter, so to speak, and ran straight into a brick wall. And that's the play Zeke gets stuffed up on 4th down and then ultimately fumbles. So, Scouting Pro, not football related, but I like your hair this way, DDP. Appreciate it. Been trying to grow it back out a little bit. People on Cole Beasley, but in my opinion, especially lately, he actually runs good routes and is doing a good job and even getting open. Yeah, Cole Beasley, Cole's had a pretty up and down year. There's definitely value, and I wouldn't be shocked if they try to get him on a new deal. I think they want to build the core of the receiving core. The core of the receiving core, that's redundant. They want to build the receiving core around a combination of Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and Cole Beasley. The problem is they got a lot of guys of their own they got to sign. They're going to have to re-sign Tank Lawrence. They're going to have to figure out, guys that they're going to extend this offseason. They've already said several times they're going to give Dak a new deal. They're going to give Amari Cooper a new deal. So they're going to have to figure those things out. You got other contracts coming up too, where you're going to have like Byron Jones. They're going to have the Zeke thing coming up at some point as well. So because of that, they're going to have to figure out what they want to do in that regard. And I don't know. I would not be shocked in the least bit if they don't offer Cole the money he wants and he goes elsewhere. Because Cole Beasley has no allegiance to Dallas, man. Like, I know he's from SMU. He's not a Cowboy fan at heart. And I don't say that as critical. Like, it's practical. He is absolutely more interested in being paid because he's never been paid like that. And he thinks he's as good as any slot receiver, if not a lot of a lot of other top name receivers in the league. And so I think Dallas's offer is probably going to fall short of what he wants, and he's probably going to go test the market and see who wants to pay him more. I bet I know New England would, I don't know what they would pay him, but I guarantee you they'd give him everything and then some he could ever want as a slot receiver as far as targets. Are the coaches smart enough to use Tavon Austin properly? Tavon is still touch and go about when he'll return. His groin, the muscle was torn off the bone. That's the injury that Morris Claiborne had his last season as a Cowboy, and he had to undergo surgery. Tavon did not undergo surgery. If Tavon can come back, I'm very much hoping he can. If he can come back, pairing him, he's not going to get crazy snap numbers per game, but pairing him with Amari Cooper and Cole Beasley is very intriguing to me. He caught the 64-yard touchdown, the bomb from Dak in the first game of this, first home game of the season against the Giants, and that was a real tone setter. Dallas would very much like to still have him around. He's a very useful weapon to have. Can they be smart enough to use him? We'll see. Speaking of receivers, Terrence Williams, not on IR. I think his career is probably done. I just think they're not playing him at this point. He was on IR to return, I believe, and he's not coming back. He's not playing. He's not getting snaps. So I think Terrence Williams is probably done. It is what it is. It's funny, when we re-signed him, 4 years for $16 million, we're like, it's not a guy that I was crazy about bringing back, but okay, you keep Dak with this same receiving core from 2016, and you can say, well, at least it's a team-friendly deal, because he could have gotten more money elsewhere, is what we were told, and if that's the case, he made a bad financial decision, because 2 years into a 4-year deal, didn't play at all in the second year of that deal, and now he's probably out the door. Like, he bottomed out hard. What do you think of the Taco situation? I think we have to keep him in case Randy Gregory relapses or is injured. Well, here, before I touch on Randy Gregory, let me echo. I posted on the Facebook page about this earlier. If you guys didn't see already, you got Josh Gordon being suspended again. He's basically done. There's no way he's going to be coming back. He was one strike away from basically lifetime ban. Even with the NFL softening its stance on drug policy violations this year, quietly so, he still got popped. Now he stepped away from the team. He's focusing on his mental health. That's the number one thing. I'm not trying to demean him at all. But everyone who said, you gave a first for Amari Cooper, you could have given a fifth for Josh Gordon. This is why I said you didn't want to do that. My mic can't get on camera. Screw it. This is exactly why I said you didn't want to do that, because he's one strike away. You already got your own guy with Randy Gregory that's one strike away. Why on earth would you want another guy like this, let alone bring him in mid-season when you don't even have time to integrate him into the culture of your team? This is what I was talking about, and I still had Cowboy fans angrily telling me that the Cowboys blew an opportunity like 6 weeks into the season, right before we got Amari Cooper. And then they complained when we got Amari Cooper because we overpaid when we could have had Josh Gordon for a fifth. There you go. He went to New England, of all places, and still wasn't that effective. Then people said, you could have had Golden Tate for a third. Golden Tate hasn't done squat in Philadelphia. Their media there is calling his trade a colossal failure. He could have had Demaryius Thomas for like a fourth. Okay, but he was asked to go be like the number 2 or 3 receiver in Houston, and he's basically over the hill anyway. Why would we have wanted that? If he had come here, would he have been our best receiver? Probably, but would that mean that he was like significantly better than Gallup? I don't know. Maybe not. It's just not a good investment. They made the right call, even if I think they could have gotten Cooper for a second and like a fourth maybe. I feel they made the right call. And the data proves that out. Cooper by himself has matched the number of catches, 44, as Tate and Thomas, who were acquired the same week as Cooper. Same number of catches by himself as the two of them combined, significantly more yards and significantly more touchdowns. Bruh. They made the call. It's one of the things you got to give the front office credit for. As for your question that I've now circled around, now that I've got all these other talking points out there. Randy Gregory, and what do I think of the Taco situation? I don't know that Taco Charlton is on this team next year, and that's a very surprising thing to say. I don't say that as like a shock jock, he's trying to get attention. No, I think that the fact that Dallas has effectively did not play coaches decisioning him for the past several weeks. During their 5-game streak, he played like 4 snaps. That was all against the Saints, by the way. They're not playing him. He's not winning in practice. He's getting beat out by Dorrance Armstrong, and he's not making an impact. And he's throwing these attitude, hissy fits and stuff like that. And even when the team was riding high on a 5-game win streak, he's on Twitter talking about like, oh, they don't know anything. Wait, if they'll give me a chance, they'll really see. Bro, we're riding high right now. Why are you running your mouth? Like, if we're on a 5-game losing streak and they're not playing you, then I can understand, like, being like, dude, you want to win, play me. I can at least understand that because it's a competitive edge. But when the team's riding high, you need to just bust your ass in practice and get there. And it sounds like Dallas is admitting they made a mistake on him because he's never going to be better than a mid-tier rotational player for them. And I think that when Dorrance Armstrong came in, a 4th rounder from this year, not the number 29 or 27 pick like Taco was, when he came in and is already getting more snaps and beating him out for playing time, that says a lot, man. Dorrance Armstrong is raw as hell. He came from Kansas, not Michigan. Like, it's not good that guy's beating you out. And that's not to put any disrespect on Dorrance's name. Dorrance is a hell of a player. I think he's one of the better steals Dallas got in the top 4 rounds. But we'll see, man. We'll see. So regarding keeping Taco because of the Randy Gregory situation, that is a very real risk, as you mentioned. And as I mentioned earlier, Gregory is also 1 strike away. In fact, we thought earlier this season he might have accumulated that strike. And, we got to see what happens with that. I don't know what Dallas is going to do. I think they're going to re-sign Tank, and I think they probably draft another defensive end in the draft. And I think that's probably your insurance policy because I don't think Taco is it. And if I'm wrong, hey, save this clip, show it to me, and we can treat it as a freezing cold take. I don't run from being wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But that's some of the insight I've seen from some of the guys around the team, whether it be like a Bobby Belt or someone like that, chiming in, weighing in on the whole situation with Taco. It sounds like it is rapidly deteriorating. What scenario would it take to reconsider the quarterback position this offseason? This offseason, there's not really one, frankly. It's a terrible draft class coming out for quarterbacks. Dallas doesn't have a first-round pick, so the draft is out. As for veteran quarterbacks, Dallas has shown, look at really any era, Dallas doesn't put a veteran quarterback that can really push for playing time on the team. Romo was always shielded with Brad Johnson or John Kitna or, hell, Kyle Orton was the best backup quarterback Romo ever had behind him. Like, they don't put competition at the quarterback. They pamper quarterbacks. Dak in 2016, when Romo came back healthy for about 6 weeks, and really only about 3 weeks before Romo then conceded the job to him, that's really the only time that we had a backup quarterback that you could argue, hey, he can come in and probably be better than the starter. I just don't have faith in his back to hold up, or really his body in general. But I don't think that they are going to reconsider this offseason. I think you're going to continue to ride with either Cooper Rush or Mike White. I think Mike White has a lot higher ceiling than Cooper Rush, but he's also got a long way to go. He's got all the arm talent and strength in the world. He just needs to get everything upstairs, be better at reading defenses, audibles, all that, and just understanding the playbook and the route trees and etc. For some reason, I think Taco gets traded, and like I said on my Cowboys family page in April, David Irving is done. Yes, Irving is done. They don't even think he likes football, and Big Game James has been talking about that for months. And, we never disputed it because there was never anything to dispute it. I think he's just got the ability and the talent, but he doesn't have the drive and passion for it. And that's not to say he's not going through his own hard times and everything. Of course he is. But I think it's just made for a situation where he's like, I'm getting paid anyway, and I'm going through some stuff. I don't want to be there. Having him on this defense would be gargantuan. When he is there and he is focused, that dude is a wreck shop. You add him next to freaking Gregory, next to Irving, D-Law, and the rest of this defensive line, and man, it's going to be trouble. Trouble for the other team. Teams are gearing up to stop Dak and Zeke in the red zone. We need someone else to step up at tight end or wide receiver. The tight ends have started to step up a little bit. The last few games, really Swain, before he went down injured, was starting to show out. Now Jarwin has been showing out a little bit. And the only guy not showing out is Rico, because even Schultz has shown out a little bit finally. Rico is the forgotten man. They need to move on from that. I feel like this coaching staff didn't know how to utilize him. Assuming we still got Jason Garrett in there next year as head coach, we're not going to get another chance now to deal with that. So if all else is the same, I think you got to move on from him. David Irving equals Rolando McClain. That's a pretty apt comparison. Another guy that didn't love the game, but was otherworldly talented when his head was right. For once, Dallas has a lot of defensive linemen, both defensive end and defensive tackle. Even backups, that's a good situation. Agreed. Nate Newton, anti-Dak. Darren Woodson, pro-Dak. I wish Dak could play, or could end this and, put up great end of season and a solid playoff performance. I wish that as well, of course. I mean, not just because it helps the Cowboys win, but I want Dak to be successful. I want to root for him because there is a lot to love about Dak Prescott, but this coaching staff and this play calling is a train wreck for him. Like, they don't know how to utilize him to his strengths. The Indianapolis game was only the third time in his pro career that he had 0 rushing attempts. Opposing coordinators and defense specifically worry about Dak's running the ball. When you let him run, he is much better. The guy had, in his career at Mississippi State, like 2,500 rushing yards. Like, the dude is built to run the ball. And then you can work play action to an even better degree, and the RPOs and all of that. They're not doing it. They're trying to make him a pocket passer. Linehan does not know how to adjust his scheme and his system to work for Dak consistently because, hey, it'll work this week and everything will look great. And then you're like, ooh, do we do that again next week? No, I don't think so. I think we need to do the complete opposite because now if we do it again, it's going to be too predictable. Bro, give me for the Dak criticism. Let Dak play to his style, to his strength. Let him be all that he can be. And if that's still not good enough, fine. Fine. But we're not doing Dak any justice by holding him back with piss poor play calling and trying to make him something he's not. All you're doing is decreasing his value. Like with Zeke, my talking point was always, you get everything you can out of Zeke. Get him more incorporated in the passing game. I've screamed about that for 2 years. This year they finally listened. Now he's got like 70 catches this year. He's among the league leaders in running backs. Fantastic. Fantastic that Zeke is finally getting that. It's made him a more well-rounded running back and a tougher threat to guard against. That's great. You're using Zeke to his full potential. Awesome. Why aren't you doing that with your quarterback? If you might only potentially have your running back for 5 or 6 years, why the hell are you not getting the most you can out of your quarterback oh, well, we might have him 10 years and we don't want to hurt him now. Bro, if you're not making the playoffs with him now, what's the good in having him 10 years if you're not going to let him play to his strength? I would take Dak Prescott playing to his ultimate potential and having like a 5 or 6 year career, but being able to deliver you at least to the NFC Championship game, if not Super Bowl. And hey, maybe they win that Super Bowl. Who knows? But I would take that 1,000 times before I took another Tony Romo-style career. And that's no disrespect to Romo. That's just saying how his career worked out. A guy that's around for 10 years or so is the starter, but you get 1, maybe 2 playoff wins. I don't want that. I would take the small sample, big success every damn time. It drives me insane. And I feel like that's why I fall somewhere in the middle, because if I had to lean one direction, I might lean slightly more to pro Dak, only because I've seen he can be good, and I've seen what he can do well. They just don't let him do it. And when he gets to do it, he's generally good. But there's room to improve. There's always mistakes to clean up and always things you got to do. But this coaching staff is absolutely responsible for his regression and the reason why. If you look at his numbers now since acquiring Amari Cooper, he's doing more with less this year than he did statistically in 2016. And hey, top notch. Great for you, man. But at the same time, we need more out of you. The fact that we're having to tout your rookie year like, oh, he's playing back to the level of his rookie year here late in year 3. That's a failure on the coaching staff, and it's a fireable offense by itself for Scott Linehan and, frankly, Jason Garrett, although I think we're probably going to be stuck with Garrett. That's the end of that rant. Sorry for that long-winded venting. One great thing about Dak is he never gets hurt. Yeah, but with his, again, being sacked 50-plus times this year, we're playing with fire at this point, for sure. Scott Vanillahan. Don't know what to do with Stafford or Romo either. Agreed. Have you noticed the handoffs between Dak and Elliott in the red zone look rushed and really bad, and not the RPO ones, just regular handoffs? Yeah, no, I have. I absolutely have. The offense and everything is out of sorts in the red zone, and the execution has looked bad, and some of the plays are too slow developing, and it's hurt them. Would running no huddle with Dak help more? Absolutely. That's why part of why Dak is so good in late game situations, and why he's usually very good at either making that drive to try and tie the game up, or keeping Dallas in it late. When it comes to put up or shut up time, they go no huddle, they go up tempo, and they let him just say, okay, you know what? We've been kind of keeping the restraints on you all game, telling you to really take only what the defense gives you. Start slinging it. Start slinging it. And that's when you get the 28-yard gorgeous pass, that first touchdown to Amari Cooper against Philadelphia. And then he follows it up after that with a 75-yard strike that goes 40 yards through the air, by the way, for the people who say he can't pass deep. Like, he can do it. I think he is so in his own head and so overanalyzing his every pass, and he's so petrified of making these big mistakes that at times I think it short-circuits him. And when he gets to that moment where he's like, screw it, if I don't do something now, we lose anyway, he'll usually raise his level of play, and that's a clutch gene some guys have. Now, would you like to have that in a more skilled quarterback overall? Sure, but I'm sure the Giants probably said the same thing about Eli Manning. Dude was clutch as hell in those 2 Super Bowl runs, but he is probably the best average quarterback to have 2 Super Bowl titles ever. If you look at his career as a whole, he's not stupendous by any means. Dak does really play well when he has to, like back against the wall, has to score. Yes, he does, absolutely. But that's going to wrap up my time, I think, here. I've been going a little over an hour, guys. If you want to support the Dallas Prospect, you have the obvious means of things like Patreon or Super Chat. You can also check out the new merch store, represent.com/store/the Dallas Prospect. The link is in the description. Be sure to check that out. We have all new designs coming out all the time. Everything from just the standard Dallas Prospect logo to kind of some of our slogans. That every legend was once a prospect design is out. And we got some custom ones as well if you're a fan of basketball or Cowboy stuff, football in general. We got stuff coming out. Keep an eye out for that. If you haven't already, while you're here still, drop a like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. We're going to keep doing this. We're on the stretch run for the Cowboys, but even when Cowboy season ends, This live streaming doesn't. We're still here for Mavericks games. We got NBA playoffs and everything when that rolls around then. And we're going to be going. So don't forget to check it out. And until next time, guys, remember, every legend was once a prospect. Salute.